Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the Getting Together podcast. We are really excited. Today, we have Kelly Lee in just a little bit.
I can't mess up that last name.
No,
Kelly
thank
Lee.
goodness.
Because
Kelly
the last three
Lee.
I have
Butchered.
just... But
Butchered.
really, NICAMP, N-I-E, that's Nye. And
No.
she's like, no,
She's
Alexis Niekamp. And I just...
But you did.
My apologies.
But
Kelly Lee, that's an
Kelly
easy
Lee.
one. So thank you for booking her today.
Yep. My pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Kelly Lee with us. It's going to be a really cool interview
Yes.
with her. So stick around for that. But we have an update for you. First of all, we have an update. A couple of weeks ago,
Yep.
we had a little accident.
Well, not we.
We hadn't. This is a show that we do together.
Okay, all right.
I had an accident
Yep.
where I destroyed some property that did not belong to me.
Did not belong to you.
So you can go back to that episode and see just exactly what the damage was. But I have restored our little friend.
You're going to show
back
our
to
friend?
perfect health.
Do you remember what his name is? Because we did find out what his name was.
Yeah, I call him Ned.
Okay, but it's
And
not
what
Ned.
what his real name is, he's an elder here at the church.
At
that's
Restoration
associated
Church in Prescott.
with the coffee shop.
Yes.
So anyway, apologies to that elder, but he's back and he's feeling
back,
so
and you
much
know what?
better. He
You
feels
do a
so
great
good.
little whip stitch. Was
Why,
that a
thank
whip
you.
stitch?
I have
Is that
no
what that
idea.
was?
I know. So there's a baseball stitch on the side where I had to
baseball stitch.
stuff him, but the other I'm not sure
I
what
think
that
it's
is.
a little whip stitch you got
Whip
going on there.
stitch.
It was very
But,
nice and neat.
He's looking fine.
Excellent
He's
job.
feeling great, and the actual man is out of the hospital now.
Yes, we
so
will not do the voodoo doll
Nope,
thing again.
Nope, we're gonna be kind.
We've
and
learned our
tender.
lesson.
He's so sweet. He's such a
He's
sweet
really
elder.
soft too.
He is very soft. My son Daniel was noticing that as well.
Yeah,
but
I
not that you would really want to cuddle with this.
Well, but I might. I'm
scary
thinking
thing.
maybe getting one of you done. I think that
Yeah,
would
nope.
be, and just all around town. Wouldn't that be
around
hilarious?
town. Wow.
Where is Jeremy today?
Wow.
One of those kind of
Yeah,
Waldo.
we could
Where's
do
Waldo
that.
things?
We could not do that ever.
I think it'd be fun.
And so it's still Foster Care Awareness Month. And
So a little shameless plug.
oh yeah,
This,
what you got?
This is my shirt that says "Real Talk" about foster care and adoption.
Yes.
Because in case you don't know,
If you don't know.
I don't know, I have a radio show, and it's all things
You
foster
do?
and adopt. I do.
Well, there you go.
So on Sundays, 8:15, if you're local, on
local,
Arizona Shine,
radio show,
103.9
Radio
FM. If you're not local,
103.9.
Real Talk Prescott. Boom.
Real Talk Prescott.
Or Spotify.
Or
And all the
Spotify.
things. Real Talk.
Okay, that sounds
It's a great
really
resource and
It's
great
awesome.
stories. Foster care and adoption. Okay.
good. So it's like it's for us. It's summer began because our kids are out of school.
Yes.
So is this a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it depends what day you talk to me, but we're on day 1, so it's a good thing.
It's a great thing. It's a great thing.
Talk to me.
Day 59.
July. Okay, so I get a little crazy with the summer. I do an actual summer schedule for my kids.
Ooh.
Because do your kids do the I'm bored?
Well, so
I've got nothing to
we're in a
do."
different stage of life now because my son Ethan will be working full time,
Okay.
and my daughter Ella has interviewed at a couple places, and she'll be
Aw.
most likely working full time.
They drive now, so
And then my son Daniel,
who's hanging out with us
hanging,
today?
He's hanging, drinking a schmoozy.
He's- Yep.
He is probably got like the summer programs with Heights Church.
Yeah.
And then Prenda, the little micro school that he goes to, they're actually going to have some summer school as well. So, yeah, we've kind of got him in some programs. We've got a little bit of a
Keep him
vacation
busy.
planned as well. So,
where are you guys going to go?
the beach.
You guys like Southern California.
So, Marissa's
beach.
dad, again, Denver, shout out to the
How's it
Big D.
going, Den?
He generously gets this beach house right on the beach every year.
Denver?
At Sunset Beach.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
It's a great
I know
spot.
Sunset,
It is
yeah.
a great spot. And
I was raised
we
in
do.
Long Beach,
we,
so.
we literally walk out the back door and you are on the beach. The waves are right there. It is so
are spoiled.
awesome.
Is it just your family? He does
No,
this for
no.
just your family. Oh,
no,
okay.
no. So it's the fun. Honestly, like the fun thing, it is a small house, right? It's I don't know,
I know, but those are good memories.
800 square feet.
I love it.
Something like that.
Yeah, sleep outside, whatever.
And so we pack all kinds of people
Yes.
in bunk beds,
Yes.
on couches.
Lay on the
and
floor.
it is a blast. It is a blast.
Oh,
'Cause
that's my dream.
We get up, we roll out, Caroline, his wife, is already like she's on it. Coffee's ready.
Oh,
It's just
that's
it is
so great.
It is an amazing thing. So
That's
we play
so
lots
great.
of board games. We sit and just laugh and have a good time. It is.
Are you a surfer?
It is restorative.
Do you get out there?
I like to try.
Okay.
I am not
surf
successful.
or boogie board?
I prefer trying to surf.
Okay.
I hurt
Longboard?
myself less on a boogie board.
Longboard or just your regular old
No,
run of the mill?
because I don't have the skills and I don't go
Okay.
out often enough.
Yeah.
I mean, we go once a year for a week, and so about the time I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I can, and then no.
Do you wetsuit it or do you go brave?
Heck yeah.
Okay.
Oh no. No, we all have wetsuits.
Okay,
and,
good.
Yeah, it's a blast. So,
Yeah.
And the kids now they're doing boogie boarding.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I kind of spend more time on the boogie board. with
Yeah, get them
and
out there.
have
It's so much fun.
But-
This last year, we do the same. Every year we go to Central Coast. So we do Pismo,
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Avila, San Luis Obispo area. It hasn't changed like since the 50s.
Oh, it's awesome.
And some people
I
think
love
it's
that
kind of
feeling.
grimy, but I love it. I don't
No.
feel it doesn't feel grimy. It feels old school Beach Boys, like
Yep,
seriously, like they're going to be on the sand with their guitars.
Yep.
That's the feeling, and I love it.
Absolutely.
There's
Oh,
like,
it's a cool place.
65, 75-year-old surfers out there.
Yeah.
It's so great. And
is
so
cool.
we do it every year. And, until maybe the kids are like, eh. But last year was
there's
the
no such
first
thing.
year.
It's the beach. You don't.
Mama
the
got a
beach.
wetsuit.
Yeah.
Yep. Sucked herself up into that sucker. And
Oh.
I'm like, I'm doing it this year. I am
Yeah.
not sitting on the beach. I only have a few more years with my kids till they
Oh, no.
may not want me around anymore.
No. You got to get out there.
I'm getting out there.
Oh, yeah.
And so we did. And my
Stingrays and everything.
sister got out. Oh, yeah. Well, we had seals, not stingrays,
Oh,
but
seals are cool.
seals were out there with my daughter, and she's
awesome.
like,
We have dolphins.
hanging out with the seal.
Do you have dolphins? We have
No, but I
dolphins.
grew up at Long Beach, and when the bell would ring, I didn't know which bell was for like, this is a
Sharkies?
dolphin, this is a shark.
Do they ring a bell for dolphins?
Well, no, but I didn't know that.
Oh.
So all I see is fins, and I didn't know that sharks necessarily don't swim together.
Right,
So
right,
there's
right.
3 fins, and I'm thinking 3 sharks, and it was traumatic and horrible, and I didn't get in the beach. I didn't get in the ocean for like a year.
So did you watch Jaws? Is that a part?
I've
part of the
never
reason?
watched Jaws. I will not. I have not. Even the
And you were
music.
still afraid?
You have a healthy fear when you grow up there.
Okay.
Right?
All
Like,
right.
because you hear stories and.
I mostly, I would say because of Jaws. Then every time you close your eyes, that's all you see.
I know. And did you see Soul
Adam's
Surfer?
46.
Did you see Soul Surfer?
Yeah, but that
Bethany,
wasn't Jaws.
what's her name?
Hamilton.
Hamilton. Oh,
She's awesome.
I know she's awesome, but the experience was not awesome.
And then she went to the same spot and surfed again.
just-
Now Sans
know.
arm.
I
Like,
know.
dude, that's amazing.
Amazing, crazy. There's a fine line. I'm just
Hawaii.
saying.
I mean, how do you not get in the water in Hawaii?
My word. Yeah.
But-
Anyway.
That's good. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have some things coming up that
Yeah.
I think will help keep him busy and
Yeah.
us busy and not because we did. I mean, Marissa's really good about all that stuff. Just getting stuff scheduled out.
We've got it all. Boom.
I usually kind of get to like, oh my gosh, it's summer, and then I'm scrambling.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
like,
I
you
do
know what?
my schedule like the 1st of May, and we do Make It Monday, Take a Trip Tuesday, Wacky Wednesday, Thankful
Wow.
Thursday, and
What?
Friend Friday.
Wow.
And we
okay.
have
That's a
different
lot.
things every week.
It's a lot of mouth.
There's pool time, there's electronic time that they have to earn at the end of the day.
Oh, nice. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, so there's no
not a bad idea.
electronics until the end of the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as a result of
Doing
earlier
what-
behaviors.
Right, doing
Okay,
what you were
that's cool.
supposed to do, being
I like that.
kind.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So I love it. It
Cool.
brings out the teacher in me.
Which is great because now you're going to be a guide.
I
You're
am.
gonna be guiding.
Yes.
Through Prenda.
Yes,
So,
I'm excited
alright.
about that.
It's
So,
it's all prep.
yep. Very excited.
Brilliant.
So,
All right.
all right, on to our guest.
On to our guest.
I'm excited
Kelly
about this
Lee,
too. Yeah.
With the DEA now.
Right.
So
Very exciting.
yeah, it's going to be awesome. And I know you'll get a lot out of it. So without further ado, here is Kelly Lee. Well, welcome back. Today we have Kelly Lee with us, and we're so happy that she's been able to join us. And Kelly, thank you so much for being here this morning and with us. It is hustling and bustling inside the porch down here in downtown Prescott, which is awesome. It's great to see a lot of people out and about. This first day of summer for us, for our kids.
So a little juggling with the kiddos.
Little juggling, but Kelly, thanks so much for being here. And,
thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Can you just tell us a little bit about you, what brought you to Prescott area? Were you born here and those kind of things? How did you get your start?
Oh boy. So I was born in New York, and Mom and Dad said, okay, we're gonna move you somewhere else because we don't want you guys to grow up here. They were, born and raised there. So they decided in 1972 to move to Phoenix, which was, our family was like, are you going to have a horse? Do you tie it outside your house? Are there roads there?
Gila monsters.
Do you have grocery stores? That kind of stuff. It was a different world to people in New York. So we moved out here. My mom and dad, my brother, myself, and then my grandmother, 4 of my aunts and uncles.
Wow.
They drove, we flew with grandma, and we made a home here.
Wow.
So we grew up in northern Phoenix, which is so different than what we were used to.
No doubt.
We
so
watched it grow.
Like in New York City or just New York State, or kind of where?
We were in New York City.
Wow, that is a huge shift.
So huge shift for my mom and my grandma. I think it was the biggest change for them.
Yeah.
My grandmother never had her driver's license because she didn't need it.
Public transportation.
There were a lot of things they had to figure out when they got here.
Really?
And a lot of youngsters with us. So my aunts and uncles are relatively close in age to us. My mom's the oldest. My youngest aunt is 4 years older than me. So we all kind of grew up as siblings.
Yeah.
And so it was an interesting journey. Went to school in Phoenix, high school, Shadow Mountain, and then continued on to community college and to ASU, where I graduated.
Wow.
Yeah. Met my husband in high school, but we kind of went our separate ways in our 20s. He traveled for work internationally. I was in school, working my way through school. I worked and went to school at the same time, so it took me a little longer to finish, but I finished and graduated with my degree in criminal justice. And went right into.
I liked her.
Went right into. I was a surveillance officer for the probation department while I was in college.
I would
Does
love
this
that.
strike a chord with you?
I would love it. I would
What
love it.
about it?
I'm going to do it even if I'm in my 60s.
Yeah, it was fascinating work. I would go and check on our caseload of 25 people who were on intensive probation supervision. So we had to have contact with them every day. All different hours of the days. We had to make sure they were doing what they were supposed to be doing. The judge gives them orders. They had a schedule they had to keep, which anybody in the system, they don't have those life skills to go to an 8-to-5 job and go to the grocery store. They are hanging on.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my job was to carry them through that program. And then after I graduated from college, I became a probation officer and I had my own caseload.
Love it.
And it was... You are not a probation officer. You are a mentor.
Yes,
That
I would
is
love that.
90% of your job is getting them to understand, making a schedule, going to work, going to their meetings, working their program, taking care of their kids.
Yeah.
They don't even have those kind of basic life skills to do that. Paying their bills, being accountable.
Stuff that mom and dad should have done.
Yes, and it's a cycle, and you would see that. You would see the cycle of
Generational
dysfunction,
poverty,
addiction, a lot of addiction, a lot of mental health issues, and so I did that for a while. And my husband was like, "Okay, you need to do something else."
Yeah, it's hard work.
It was hard work. It was burnout. It was very few successes, but those successes were so cherished, but they were very few and far between.
Yes.
We had to send some people back to jail. Some people took off, and
not fun.
we had to take kids away from families.
That's not fun.
That was not fun, but it was for the better of them.
Right.
So I needed a break. I took a break, and then I had my girls. Decided to stay at home with them.
How many girls do we have?
2 girls.
Two girls.
My oldest is 17. She just graduated from Bradshaw Mountain.
Cheers. Congratulations.
And then my youngest is a freshman, while she's now a sophomore. She's 14.
Wow.
So I stayed home with them. I felt like that was important to be there. I didn't really have that kind of stability when I was younger. So I thought, let's sacrifice a little to do this. And then we moved up here in 2011. My youngest started kindergarten the next year, and I decided to start looking.
Yeah.
So it was a good transitional time. They were in school, and I was like, okay, now what am I going to do?
And what did you do?
So I started contacting some of my previous employers down in Phoenix about, references. I needed to put a resume together. I'd been out of the workforce for 8 years, which is interesting.
I know what that's like.
Yeah. You're like,
There's this
what
huge
do I
gap
put on
in
here?
your resume.
There is.
I know. But if we put everything down that we did as moms, hello.
Oh, yes. Because I was still like Girl Scout leader,
Yes, of
helper.
course.
I volunteered at the school.
You're keeping a human alive. So
well,
there
that
it
too.
is.
And you're dealing with siblings and you're home together.
Siblings.
Conflict resolution.
Siblings. Oh, yes.
Yes,
Right.
problem solving, crafting, activities, entertaining.
Right. HR, management. There.
Yes. Going to Costco with 2 kids,
Right.
all of that.
See, budget.
Yes.
These are the things we do.
So I started putting my resume together, called a couple of employers, and one of them was like, you need to contact Marilee Fowler at Matt Force. And I was like, tell me a little bit about this. They are the Yavapai County Substance Abuse Coalition. They do so many things. I could go on for hours just about what they do, but they were looking for someone to take a program that was called RX 360, which was teaching prevention education in the schools about prescription medication, which is, something that wasn't a big thing at that time. Nobody knew that kids were getting hooked on prescription medications. Right. We think they're safe. We think they're prescribed by a pharmacist, but kids were using other people's medications.
Yeah, we had no idea we had this happen. My mom was living alone, still up in Washington, and she had a teenage neighbor boy stop by to check on her. Can I use your bathroom? She's like, of course, even though, go home and use your own. But she, she's so hospitable. And later she went into the bathroom, opened the medicine cabinet to get pills are gone.
Yeah.
And I remember her calling me and like, did I misplace them? I'm thinking, Mom, I think he might have stolen them.
Oh
Like it was so out of both of our realms of...
And I have a similar story.
I had no idea.
Neighbor girl came over. She always came over, and I heard her going through the cabinets, and we didn't keep medication in my girl's bathroom. Come to find out her mom had an addiction, and so she's sending her daughter to people's homes to do that. And I was like, this really hits a lot of homes. And so I went to started there, went to schools that first year. We talked to over 5,000 kids about prescription medications and addiction and substance abuse and where that leads you. And I had a progression where I used my experience from the probation department and what I saw from my clients and how they spiraled. It started with this, and then it went to this, and then it snowballs, and they lose control of their lives. And then when they have to pick up and start over again, it's not quite so easy.
No, so hard.
So I would take the kids through a scenario, and they would see, if you would just, really think about that first time, that first experiment, and just say no, then all of these things that followed this person's life won't happen to you.
Right.
Wow.
So I did that. We talked to 5,000 kids. We presented in front of about 100 parents. That's the one crutch that I'm really going to try and figure out how to get more parents. I know. I know. But when you talk about 5,000 kids getting this information and 100 parents, there's not going to be a conversation at home. So I continued with Matt Force we did prevention programs on every topic. We did marijuana. We did steroids. We've done opioids, prescription medication. So we went into the schools every year, every school that would have us. Some are better than others with inviting folks. And I did that for 6 years with Matt Force.
That's so great.
And then unfortunately the grant that funded my position was in jeopardy. the governor's office thought they were going to do it statewide. So I started looking elsewhere, and that's when I went to the district.
Okay.
And so
That's
I
where I
brought
met you.
some of Matt Force's programs to the district as community outreach specialist. And we brought parenting education. We brought trauma-informed care training for parents and for teachers. It was so eye-opening for teachers to get that information.
Oh, I mean, growing up, you had those kids who I know now they had trauma. I mean, there's no doubt. And I knew what was going on at their home, but they were just that family. You know what I mean? And so they're acting out in school, and they're the bad kids, and they're the ones in the principal's office, and they're the ones, in detention and getting in fights all the time. And I just, looking back, I'm like, if our educators had just been educated, but we just didn't know. I mean, it just started coming out when we became foster parents, and that was, about maybe 15, 16 years ago was when it just really started becoming available to just regular old people, I guess I would say.
And I think even with trauma, there's also brain development training that makes it make sense. When they have childhood trauma, it changes the way the wiring of their brain is
your neurological
forever.
pathways.
And so their
change.
reaction to things, or if you have a kid that overreacts to something, you're like, why is he doing that?
Right.
It's because their brain is wired differently because of something that happened at that
Early
point
on.
in their life.
Yes.
Wow.
Or you see folks that are in addiction. Wherever they started that addiction, that's mentally where they stopped aging.
Yes.
So they still act like 17-year-olds or 18-year-olds because that's when that happened. All that other social growth was forever changed.
So when you have that coworker and you're like, it's just not quite right, there's just something. I can think of people where I'm like, oh, it's so obvious to me now. It's so obvious to me now. I'm working with a 35-year-old, but really you're 12. Yeah. And that makes sense. Yeah. Something happened.
And we are seeing kids as young as 12, 13, 14 experimenting to escape whatever it is that's going on at their house. That's usually why they're self-medicating to dull that pain or because they don't have confidence or social skills, just weren't taught confidence. Yeah. And so they go to self-medicate or to fit in.
Yeah. The other day, okay, now this is no reflection on my driving. Let me just put that caveat out there.
I have a feeling that it does.
Okay. But we are such a trauma-informed family because we've adopted 2 kiddos, and even if you adopt from birth, there's trauma. So we talk trauma all the time, right? There's reasons that people do things, and so whatever. But a lesson to myself is I may talk it too much. Driving the other day, it's 25 miles an hour. I'm doing 30. There's this guy that speeds up behind me, clearly in a hurry to get somewhere. And there's nowhere for me to go. So finally he speeds around me and he flips me off as he's passing me. And my daughter is very sensitive to those types of things. She's like, Mom, that man just flipped you off. I said, I know, sweetie. And she goes, but I know what you're going to say. He's probably had some trauma.
He's about to have some more.
I said, I think I might be the trauma this morning for some reason.
Well, I always say it's they're having a bad day, I'm not having a bad day. Or they're in a rush, I'm not in a rush. And they may have some trauma or some anger issues that they need to work on, but that's not a reflection on me.
Right, right.
But give some grace.
There's always, I'm trying to teach them, there's always a reason. There's a reason that someone is acting that way.
It's not an excuse. Because I tell my kids, but hopefully they'll recognize that at some point and they'll work on it.
Right. Yes. Or someone that loves them will bring that out in their life.
Yes. Yeah. Or a teacher or, and that's why that trauma-informed training. Important. Parents, it's important. Grandparents, we really brought it in for our kinship group at the district. So we have a grandparent group. We have a lot of grandparents raising their grandkids. We do. And so they need the support. They need training. They need to know how school works. They need to know how bus stops work. They need a refresher. So we brought it in for them. So great. And their eyes were open, and then they started to feel guilty about what did I do to my kid that I'm now raising their kid. Right. And so then you have to go back and go, okay, we're not going backwards, we're going to move forwards. How can you fix
from now on.
How can you learn from that and make it better?
Yeah.
And so that's where we started those trainings, was for our
Love
grandparents.
that, Kelly.
Yeah.
That's
But it
so
needs to
great.
be, our churches need the training. Our co-workers need the training. Our teachers, our daycare
Yes,
workers,
yes.
anybody that works with kids, the Y,
Yes.
Boys and Girls Club.
You're so right on.
They all need access to this information because it makes sense.
It does.
just like the light bulb goes on and you're like,
for me, it changed our lives, my husband and I, when I had a trauma-informed worker teach us, don't say what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Just think in your mind, man, what has happened? Okay, and now how can we move on from that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Instead
really
of
good.
what is what's wrong with you?
Because we had, probationers that just did the opposite of what they knew they were supposed to do. And they knew that it was, they
Yes,
knew it was a
is
mistake,
hard, though.
or I went into juvenile probation and I would talk to the kids and I would be like, I hope I never see you in here again. As a kind of, and then the next time they were there and they're like, I know, I should have, and I made the wrong decision, and now I'm back here. And I'm like, okay, well, what can you learn from that?
Right.
Let's, try and there's a lot of trauma with our kids. And that's
Yeah.
why I kind of keep my toes in a bunch of different things, because I feel like
great.
it's, if we can help even a few kids, those are a few kids that aren't going to end up in juvenile
breaking that cycle
detention,
and
Yes.
or they're
Yes.
not going to end up in jail later on, or they're
Right.
going to succeed in school. Watching those homeless kids that still go to school every day. He's living in his car, but his choice every day is to wake up and go to school.
Oh, that is so
and
amazing.
they finish. They just need those champions
Oh, yeah.
in their life.
That's
and
awesome.
if they can find those, and they are everywhere. They really are.
Yeah.
So just I feel like my job has been to just bring programs here for people to be exposed to.
Yeah.
And that's been my goal.
That is
really
so
good.
good. Okay, but that's not, what do you do now? That's what you have done.
Yes.
And now,
So using my connections, because I feel like I'm kind of in a bunch of different areas in our community, I was looking for a change, and Marilee Fowler, the director of Map Force, said the DEA is looking for someone to work this program that they want to bring to Yavapai County. So I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And so what I'm doing now is I'm a contractor for the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration.
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 I keep thinking agency.
Yes.
but
yeah,
it's
that's
not.
what I thought
No,
too.
it's more fancy than that, right?
Administration. Okay.
And they decided 11 cities in the United States have gotten federal DEA funding to bring a program called Operation Engage to their select city. The Phoenix Field Division decided to pick Yavapai County because at the
Wow.
time in 2019, we were having a lot of fentanyl overdoses.
Okay.
Yes.
And we had some
In
12,
our-
13, 14-year-olds.
Yes.
Unreal.
And that was
High
really
school,
scary.
too.
Yeah.
Neighbor.
Yes. Yes. Across the board, we're still seeing overdose deaths, but we have reduced under 18 to zero.
Oh,
Well, that's good.
Word.
So that was last year's data. So we need to continue. Everyone needs to do their part in pushing out that is not experimentation. That's death.
Okay.
One pill can kill.
yeah, and
so-
it did in our neighbor's case.
Yes, and there's just no going back from that, and so we're trying to educate the kids that it's not experimenting. It's not what when we were
Right.
teenagers, what kids were experimenting. This
No.
is fatal
Right.
doses. So I began working for the DEA last February. We brought Operation Engage here, and there's like 6 areas that they're trying to hit. So youth, obviously, schools, workplace,
Okay.
educating our employers on opioids and workplace
The
injuries.
signs or
They have workplace injuries.
yeah.
They go for medical attention. Sometimes there's opioids prescribed.
Yeah.
How do you
I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
walk your employees through that?
Yeah.
What to look for. We're also doing stakeholder engagement events. We did our college town hall
Yes,
at
that was
Yavapai.
really good.
Were
where
you a part of that?
Yes.
I attended, yep, and it was
Through Light
amazing.
Point?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I did the opening prayer for
Oh,
the event,
Jeremy,
and then
that's nice.
it was a really cool thing because it did. It's one of those things that we hear about, little bits and pieces, and then when people were talking about, there were 2 gentlemen that that was kind of their story. Like, hey, in the 60s and 70s, we experimented and no, it wasn't good. And we kind of like, I wouldn't do that again. But, but now our kids
are dying.
Yeah, they don't get the choice to say, I don't like this.
Yeah, wait a second. That was kind of weird. I'm not going to do that again. They're dead.
Yeah.
And so there's just there's a lot out there that we're really on the cutting edge, the forefront of getting the information out and through these different community channels, which is awesome. And that we get to see it here and that we're already seeing results,
Yeah. I love that in this area, it just feels like the faith community really comes alongside what you guys are trying to do too.
Yes,
I feel
and that was a big part of why we invite folks like Jeremy to that event, because we had town council members, we had law enforcement, we had college students, we had
that's so great.
Educators, parents. We had parents who lost their daughter, and their story is just so powerful. And so we brought all these people together because everybody's coming from a different perspective, and what may not be necessarily what somebody else knows. So why not put everything out on the table and talk about it? And we had roundtable discussions. They broke off into these groups, and there's a lot of information that came from that even I'm exposed to something new every day. And I got to remember that people aren't in this world all the time, and so they don't know.
No.
And they need to know, even if it's the bare minimum of, what's going on out there.
I think one of the other things that really struck me that night was I didn't realize that like fentanyl is being made to look like other drugs. So you may think you're taking Tylenol, or someone will be at school and like, hey man, I have a headache. Oh, I have some Tylenol, and it's going to look just like Tylenol. It's going to look just like whatever else it is.
Mimic pills,
They're
and
mimic
so
pills.
we need
kids
to
that are used to taking
out.
Adderall. I mean, not that it's okay for them to take prescription medication that's not theirs, but they're used to taking Adderall or uppers or downers, and they go to get those. Well, now fentanyl's in all of that, and they're seeing fentanyl in marijuana, cocaine, methamphetamine, and it's highly addictive if it doesn't kill you, so you go back for more. And so the DEA,
I was just going to say, what is the purpose behind that?
It's highly addictive, but it's not an exact science, and these are not pharmacists creating these.
No,
these
they don't care.
super labs in Mexico. And so they're, mixing these things. 4 in 10 pills have a deadly dose of fentanyl in them.
Oh my gosh.
So the DEA is seizing thousands and thousands of pills every day, and they're testing them, and 4 in 10 have a lethal dose.
Oh my
which is
gosh.
a lethal dose is granules.
Wow. Did you have to talk to your kids? I mean, did you have a discussion with them just about taking other people's pills or any of that? Or
we have now, and I think it's one of those things that still I'm sort of the dare generation, and like just say no. And so there's lots of things that we talked about, but more along the lines of the smoking. We knew vaping was coming, and so these kinds of things. But then I never really had thought until that night about that thing of like, we used to ask, oh hey, do you have any Advil? Do you have any, like, whatever? And so we're like, no, you will go to the nurse and you'll get it from the nurse, and those kinds of things. So we hadn't had that discussion. It was the general, who you hang out with, and hey, don't smoke. If they offer this, don't do that. Like, these things don't lead to, but this has such an immediacy to it that is just unbelievable. So having that talk, and how young, I think that's the other thing. Like having my 10-year-old Daniel in on those discussions. Like, hey, look,
I started very early with my kids. And
I was just going to ask you that.
Yes.
How do they love having a mom that is like,
they're like, we know. They know that this is my life's work. They know that it's important. We've had discussions. I was in high school. I know it's not easy to be in those social situations where kids are drinking and you have to make a decision whether you want to stay there or you want to leave, or you want to hang out with your friends. That's their thing. Right. Okay, that's their thing. You can still be there to support somebody or drive them home. Right. Or call me, someone, whatever. If you have to. But that's conversations that we've had early, and we have it often, and you have to revisit it because there's stages of their lives where okay, they're hanging out with their friends at their house. Mom and dad are there. Now they're driving and they're going places.
Right.
Now they want a little bit more freedom.
Mom will still be there, though.
I'm
in your car.
I'm in your head. I'm in your ear. And so we have had those conversations, and it's hard. But you have to remember, you're teaching them to make good decisions. You're their support.
Yeah.
My kids were very involved in sports, and so they knew if they made wrong decisions, that was going to go away. And they found whatever. If it's art, if it's band, if that's their thing, then you have to, try and instill in them that if this is something you really love to do, that's not part of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to make those decisions for yourself.
Yeah.
But it starts at home. I always pound that in. It starts at home. If you're a good role model, if you're making good decisions, healthy decisions, then your kids are going to see that.
Yeah.
And
I hope so.
they get to pick the good friends. They make good choices. They, take a stand for themselves. It's not easy. I know that.
No.
But you got to put some faith into them that what you're doing is building a healthy kid that has a strong mind that can make those decisions. Yes.
That's really good.
Ooh, man, thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
My goodness.
No, it's really good.
Yeah.
And how collaborative it is. I mean, we kind of touched on the faith-based portion, but there's so many different entities involved in this whole thing right now is great.
Yes.
So
I will tell you,
really cool thing.
doing this program, and it's nationwide, so there's 11 other cities doing this. We get to brag, but our county is probably one of the most collaborative counties where, and it really all starts with Matt Force, where they bring to the table faith-based leaders, law enforcement, town government, schools,
So great.
parents, grandparents, treatment providers. We had Doug Dolan at our event at our college town hall, and he brings a different perspective that you don't always have conversations with people about treatment because it's a hard topic. There's a stigma, and it's hard for people to wrap their head around. Why isn't treatment working the first time?
Right.
Why is it 2 years later they relapse? And it's just, that's part of the process. It's hard. And so having his perspective has been amazing.
That's good.
Having juvenile justice involved.
Yeah.
The sheriff has programs at the jails that are pro prevention and pro treatment, helping people, when they transition out to the community. The community has resources for people. It's a great community to live in where we have a collaborative work together. How can I help you? How can you help me?
Yes.
That's
and
good.
let's sit at the table and have
That's
a conversation.
So great. And I think that's one of the reasons I really love this area. I've found that from the beginning in the foster care and adoption community, but just also as a mom, women, helping women. I just feel like there's such a collaboration is the word amongst people.
I think it's one of those things where we all really have the same goal. We want a healthy community that can live together, that is moving forward, and that has some of these barriers removed, and that we want our kids to succeed, and we want these things. And so, like for a long time, it seems like we all kind of thought, well, maybe our goals are maybe slightly different, but we're realizing no, the overall thing is still the same, and so we can all work together.
Yes.
So it's a great thing that's happening for sure.
It's one of the reasons. One of the many reasons.
Yes.
This all makes so much more sense now, Kelly, because for the role that I met you in when you were working with Dan Streeter and kind of right there, I just kind of had this thing like, oh, she's probably like from the teacher side of things and moved up, and so now I'm like,
I am not an
DA.
educator, and so I come from a different background, and when I took that role on, everybody's like, what is it that you do? Because the position never existed before I came to the district, and it was really to get our parents involved, get our schools involved, get our community involved with our schools, get our faith-based leaders involved, and so we have that adoption program within the school district where we have a church and a business that work within the schools. Then everybody starts seeing how you can work together to inform people, to bring programs, to share resources, and that's how it works.
Absolutely.
Everybody has to have a seat at the table.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's really
So
good.
great.
So, well, thank you so much for coming on the show today and for just sharing a little bit, not only about what you do, but who you are and what brought you to this area. But so we kind of end usually with this question of like, who would you get together with? Who is someone that you would just want to sit down and have a cup of coffee with, or dinner?
Well, it's
past or present.
Nobody famous.
Okay.
But it would be my grandmother.
Okay.
She was, instrumental in my life. She always instilled, you can do anything that you want to do. And she passed away when I was 15, and so she never got to see this part, and she never got to meet my kids. And so I think I would sit with her. She would have to cook for me because she's an amazing cook.
Yeah.
And so it would be one of her dinners, sitting down, eating, and just chatting.
Oh, I've got
That's awesome.
That would be
That's really good.
lovely. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's sweet.
That's good.
Yep. Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Kelly, for coming on Getting Together with Ray and Jeremy. And we are we know this particular subject especially is affecting so many communities, and so if you would please share this specific episode with someone, and it is a conversation to be had from grandparents to grandchildren, from parents to children, and it is getting younger and younger. So don't think just because you have maybe young kids or they're too this affects so many lives right now. So share this. There are plenty of resources, especially within Yavapai County, to help educate. If you're not sure where to start, we're going to have some of those resources in the description down below. So please follow those links and reach out, have those hard conversations. It will be worth it in the long run. So thank you, and we will see you on the next episode of Getting Together. Bye-bye.